Ugh, I just shot this huge video on functional reserve capacity and there was some kind of error that messed up. So this is my second time doing my FRC video. Basically, throughout the year, we have these different metrics and it's, whenever I introduce a new metric to you, it's a large educational process and I take it pretty seriously. And I just don't want to throw these metrics at you and then it go over your head and you're like, I don't understand all of this. It must be me and blah, 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 blah. And so these concepts have been, developed over 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years. And so I introduce them slowly. I look at them and I study them, but these metrics by which we judge you and look at you are quite crucial. And one of the ones that we've been talking about, I've been introducing some of my clients to more than others, is the concept of functional reserve capacity. Basically, functional reserve capacity is a metric. It's how much energy you can expend over your threshold. All right. So if you go out and do a threshold ever, that's supposed to be, an hour's worth of work, quote unquote. But how much time can you actually spend above threshold? That's a crucial question and it's different for everybody. So let's look at these metrics and jump in here a little bit. The total amount of work that can be done during continuous exercise above FTP before fatigue continues, and we do measure that in terms of kilojoules or energy. It's how much we drained and restored the battery during a workout or a race. So basically, if you think about it, you have this big diesel engine, and your diesel engine is crucial for your threshold and your tempo, sweet spot, all your endurance, your zone 2, all that great stuff. Now, when you want to give it the gas over your threshold, you have this battery that can only be used so much. You've heard of the concept burning matches. You only have so many matches that you can burn in a workout. And a match is basically typically defined as, going over your threshold a lot though. All right, so you have this battery and you're at your threshold and you start to go above the threshold and your battery starts to drain. And then you go back below your threshold and then the battery, because of all the, your carbs stored in your muscles and in your liver and all that great stuff, your battery starts to replenish. It gets full. And then you hit it again, your battery goes down. And then you relax and it comes out. So let's look at some real case scenarios of how I use this in coaching and how we use it in training and racing. So here is a great example of a very nice, this is basically, one of the types of workouts that I love to do during a race week. At the very beginning of the week is some VO2 work to really open up those legs, have them jazzed up for the rest of the week. And this is one of those, okay? So here's your warm-up. This blue line, it represents your FRC. So here's your warm-up. You can see this power spike here, power spike here, power spike here. This is his threshold, all right? Then, but what happens? You see it we just touch the battery a little bit, which is what a good workout will do. Then, boom, it's off. It's off to the races. These are 40 by 20, so these are 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off. So here's your 40 seconds, 20 seconds relax, and this is exactly what we're trying to do right here with this interval. And then you rest. This line is shorter than where you started because you're draining the battery, and when you do big hard efforts, the goal of this is to not have it fill all the way up, but to keep yourself at a little bit of fatigue. And then we bury yourself here, comes back up, bury yourself here. Now these recoveries are really good. What I would have loved to have seen is this recovery be not as high as this recovery, and then we keep working him down. Again, this was at the beginning of the week. It's a race week, so we're not pushing this athlete to his capabilities, but when we really want to push this athlete, we're going to give him more of these 40-20s. We're going to 5, 6, 7 of these to really make sure that we're training the battery, we're through draining the battery and restoring the battery. It's draining and restoring. Those two things are key. Here's another person. So he starts off, nice warm up, but kind of, this was this person's first time doing this. Not as neat, little little more sloppy on the 40-20. These, I believe these were done outside, and so it could have been harder to actually hit the numbers like that. You got all kinds of stuff going on. Again, with this, didn't really nail it. And then this, nailed this one. This looks really super sharp. Dug deep. And that's, another point of, when doing these VO2, when doing these anaerobic efforts, when doing these FRC efforts, often jump on that trainer if possible to nail these efforts. But if you want to get outdoors, you're not going to hear any complaints from me by just jumping outdoors. Okay, here's an interval workout. These are longer intervals, so these are 3-minute VO2 efforts. And so we got a nice little warm-up. The battery's drained. Boom, really drains the battery here. Boom, really drains the battery here again. Boom, just giving it his all. But what happens right here? Now, if you were just looking at these look really good without the dFRC, without the FRC line. This look really good, but these two were trying to drain the battery. So what happened? This causes me as a coach to come back, look at this first interval. So the target was 248 to 266 watts. And if you know me, when doing these intervals, especially for the first time, start conservative. The goal is to finish the intervals, to finish the theme of the workout, is to get, for this particular workout, was 6 battery draining intervals, right? Where we're really pushing it. And so what does this athlete do? He just jams this, right? His actual average watts for this first one was 268 watts. I would have rather seen him do 248 right here and come home strong. But what's he do? Starts off, boom, 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 boom. And here at the end, that's what we have it. This is a great case scenario that when you go out too hard, you blow up. And so that athlete blew it up. So it was a great learning experience. And we can, the next time this athlete sees these, then we can adjust. We can, I could, say like, hey, make sure you don't go out too hard on that first interval. Here's another one. Here's a set of interval workouts. Again, this really illustrates the principle that the FRC is only work done above your threshold. So here's the threshold. These are 3 sweet spot intervals. We're really not training the battery at all, okay? We're not dealing with the battery. We're not draining the battery. We're not, restoring the battery. These were all about pushing up your FTP. Here's a crit. So as I said, the FRC, we use it post-analysis, post-training analysis, and post-racing analysis to better help you understand what to do in the future. So here's a crit, and we know that a crit, you're going to drain your battery because it's just all out fast, just all out. I want to say a swear word, a bad phrase. It's just all out as hard as you can go. And so, right, we have this right off the bat. This is the start line. Boom, we go. And there we go. It's off. The races are off. And this particular athlete, super strong, super amazing athlete. And just, you see all these power spikes all over the place. And boom, this particular athlete really did a great job racing this, and he still had a little bit left for that final sprint, for that final stretch. This was actually a really super exciting race, and the athlete just did fantastic. Here's another crit, right? So we roll up hot to the start line. We're sitting there. Boom, gun goes off. And then you see all these spikes, man. Look at all those power spikes. And this was a different strategy, a different group. Just rocking it out here at the beginning. And then boom, this is where the break happens. And then it's off, right? Boom, and then you dig deep for all this time. So almost 10 minutes, it was just hardcore, as hard as you can go. And so as a coach, if this person wants to win this crit, he's got to be able to dig deep for 10 minutes. And so that's the type of training that we do. We got to dig deep. If he really wants to dig win this crit, then we got to be able to dig deep for 10 minutes. Where in fact, this was actually a training race, training right through the race. And so, boom, we got all of this. And then there's a little bit left at the end and for that final sprint. Here's another crit. This was a fascinating example. The person who was doing this crit was just in there to help his team. He wasn't in there to win it. You see some power spikes, but then the athlete did a great job. He helped the team, and athlete didn't get first place, didn't get podium, but did an amazing job helping his team. Here's a time trial. And so this was an out and back. So here we go down, we do the turnaround, right? Power drops, boom, get back on it. Then there you go. You're up to speed and you're going, but you can see in a time trial, the goal is not to drain your battery. The goal is to do the strongest steady state effort that you can from the get-go. And so he left it all out there. And so when he got done, there was no effort. There was no aerobic ability to drive his anaerobic battery. So you can't think that I'm going to just ride threshold for 1 hour and then have 20 minutes extra of anaerobic battery left. That's not how it works. All right. So you have this amazing effort right at his threshold, and boom, you still need the anaerobic to drive you still need the aerobic to drive the anaerobic. Now, this is another great example. This is the same course. He goes down. This is another athlete, goes down, does the bump again, but look at this. Look at all this power that he has left. So what does this mean? This is the classic scenario of, having too much in the gas tank, leaving too much in the gas tank at the end. And so what we're going to do for this particular athlete, we're going to raise his goal watts right here. The strategy, we're going to raise all this, maybe 5 watts, so that he doesn't have anything left here. He doesn't have any battery left. He doesn't have any aerobic capability. He doesn't have any anaerobic capability because he's left it all out here, which will actually make him faster on the course. And then group rides. We hate group rides as coaches. Everybody asks me about group rides. They're fun. They're awesome. There's a place for them. You learn skills. But when it comes to just hardcore training, they can get a little sloppy. And so sometimes, it's periods of training, they're great. Other periods, we need you to focus on you. So this was all someone else's workout. This was not his workout for the day, but he ran out there, he did a group ride, but you can just see how it's all over. In a group ride, you're either going too hard or too easy. Too hard or too easy. Too hard, too easy. And so that's a group ride, and it's just not the most efficient way to develop your metabolic processes. All right, here's another one. Oh, here's one that I did this past weekend. This was the Virginia Blue Ridge 70.3 Ironman course. And the whole goal of this is a 3-hour course. And so the whole goal is just to stay as steady as possible. So you can see I rarely had bumps. These bumps can be patterned to rollers. So I like to go over the roller strong to get speed on the opposite side. This is just warming up still. I didn't get a warm up for this, so I'm purposely doing these types of efforts to just warm up the legs, get them going, and then we're off to the races. This is all out in the country, this is all in the mountains, and then this is all in-town work. So I'm slowing up for traffic, stop signs, stoplights, and then giving it the gas, and then just leaving it out there. And so on race day, you're not going to want to do that. On race day, you definitely don't want to do this for an Ironman because they still have the big run to do after that bike leg portion of the event. But I really wanted to see that run in for a client. There is a new run in this year for the big Roanoke Ironman event through town. So that's basically 20 minutes of new roads, and I did learn one important thing. There's a monster hill that really sneaks up onto you. It's going to be nasty on the day of. There's going to be a lot of people walking their very heavy triathlon bikes up that hill. And so I'm going to have my client, save up and make sure that you're relaxed. You're relaxed and ready for that hill. And so mental preparation, a little relaxation before will help, will go a long ways to make my client faster in that particular race. Now, there's kind of four big things. FRC gives insight into the athlete's anaerobic work capacity. And this is all post-race, post-training, so that we can help understand what went right, what went wrong, how we can correct for the future in both training and racing. Anaerobic intervals, that's how we train this. VO2 is what we can, typically think of when we think of FRC and developing that battery. We're developing your anaerobic capacity, and it's all about the anaerobic. Specificity, used to analyze performance and adjust your efforts as part of your strategy for an upcoming race. Understanding the race is crucial. Understanding what's going to happen to that battery is crucial. For it's a cyclocross race, you're really going to need a big battery. Whether it's a criterium, you're going to need a big battery. That's how it's going to go. Now, trade-off, the higher the FRC, the lower the FTP. So if you're just out there doing tons and tons and tons of dedicated anaerobic battery building, your FTP actually does lower a little bit. You're actually, the size of the diesel engines goes down and your battery gets huge. And so that's an interesting trade-off, because all the work that you do to establish that battery doesn't necessarily mean that you have the extension ability, duration ability, resiliency ability for your FTP. If you have any questions about FRC, functional reserve capacity, my software calls it dFRC, dynamic functional reserve capacity. Don't hesitate to ask. I'll send you screenshots, whatever you need. But yeah, you just reach out to me. I use it. I look at it. So it's something that you can look at and get to know over time. It's not the simplest of metrics, but if you know your history, see how it works out in your training, see how it works out in your racing, it's a great educational tool for you. Thanks so much, guys.